Hey, it's Geoffrey Plummer, Eastside Community Church. Welcome to the outreach moment for Sunday. I'm here with my treasured friend, Martha Mazza, who leads our women ministry here at Eastside Community Church. And we're going to have a little conversation today about outreach. So Martha, thank you for joining me on this Sunday. And let's get started. You and I share something that is very interesting, in a love of poetry and a love of writing. So how did you get started with poetry, and can you tell me a little bit about the love you have for poetry?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Jeffrey. I started poetry back about 10 years ago when Tim in the back portables did a class on the Psalms, and he encouraged people to write poetry then. And that's when I started. Before that, yeah, I didn't like poetry at all. It was, I think, too emotional for me. But that's how I got started. And for some reason about at that time, my thoughts I used to ask why would you, I mean, how would you come up with the words for a poem? And all of a sudden they just started flowing. So yeah, I think God just did something with that.
Yeah, and your passion for poetry has led you to produce a book of poems right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've compiled about 30 of my poems. I spent time looking at some of my photos that I've done, and then did a poem to the photo. So when I do the poetry, it's how nature kind of resonates and reminds me of who God is, and how we change and transform in life, and how that is shown in nature. And so I put a photo, a poem, and a devotion together. And I'm right now in the process of publishing that.
Nice, nice. Well, you've said that poems and poetry in general allow you to express emotions that you're dealing with inside. That's something that comes out when you write. Is a little bit more about that in your life?
Yeah, I've discovered either writing poetry or journaling. It's like a stair steps into my soul. It's like if I don't spend the time actually letting my outside know what my inside is, I kind of live in the surface. So to me, I find great communion with God as I go deeper and express the emotions and feelings that are deep inside. So yeah.
So it's to you, it's like a worship experience as
Oh yeah.
well. And then it had gone to a level where now you got a book of poems that others can share. That's awesome. That's good. Yeah. So as we talk about how we use our gifts that God has given us, I believe that God gives us gifts for different reasons. One, to advance His kingdom; two, to help build up, His church, etc., like that. So this gift of poetry, how you think you would use that for an outreach focus to reach others for the Lord?
Well, hopefully that people would read it and discover who God is through all of how I talk of God in it, and how He is intended to be very deeply, in our lives and in the center of our lives. So that's what I hope that it would do. And then for Christians, a deeper walk with the Lord, and that would raise a passion with them as well um, to have a deeper relationship with the Lord.
Right. So you've been on a personal outreach journey over the last few years. You've grown in that passion for outreach. Can you talk a little bit about your journey recently?
Yeah, years ago, I'm so afraid to even open my mouth and say anything, and fearing I wouldn't say anything right, or I would say something wrong, I would be rejected, all that. And the focus was the 4 spiritual laws is what my focus would be. And the last few years, that's changed to be more like be Jesus around people, and to call them to Christ in a love manner. And so now it's more like a lot of listening and caring and loving as people share their lives. Like words maybe said that allows you to go deeper and ask questions. So just being curious about their lives. And today in this world, the people just fly by. They don't care. They don't ask questions. So we can be the love of Christ by listening well and asking questions, and hopefully walk them towards God in that way.
Yeah, listening skills are very important. We've heard that in a number of interviews that we've done about that. That's a skill that takes time, a commitment of time too, because if you're going to listen to somebody, you have to give up your time in order to do that. But it's so different when you really make a connection with somebody by listening to what they're going through. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And also not thinking about what you're going to say back. So not to being aware what's in our own minds, that really we're there to listen to their story and just be present with them as they share.
Right. Well, you also lead our women's ministry. So, I mean, there's a lot you have going on with the women's ministry. How would you like to see the women's ministry become more active in outreach or more active in sharing Jesus with others?
Yeah, what I love to do is to stir the women's hearts. I'd love them to move closer to Christ, and as they move closer to Christ, they'll discover their passion. A lot of times it takes a journey to figure out what our passion is. And if we have that passion, it's going to move us in the way that follows Jesus and not going ahead of Jesus. So my desire is for the women to move closer to Christ through the Bible study, prayer, silent time, solitude with Christ, to discover how he's made you in order to and look back in your life to see what your journey has been, how he shaped you, molded you, so that you can move with steps more aligned with what and how he has created you to be, and follow Christ into sharing his glory and calling others to him.
Yeah, so you've been leading the women's ministry for a little bit now. I'm sure you've seen gifts in certain ladies who are part of the ministry and stuff. Are there any recent examples of where you've seen the ladies come together to minister to others?
Yeah, actually today I'm taking a group of ladies to go minister somebody, and it's like I see their prayers as being something to minister to people. I see their love and their care towards others, and I see their service for others. And it's really cool to see it all come together, because just these simple things are what, minister. They love people well, and they show Christ's love. So yeah, it's exciting to see it as they step out and use what gifting the Lord has given them.
Awesome. Awesome. So if somebody was just starting out and sharing their faith, what advice would you have for them?
Starting out and sharing your faith, I think to be very relational, to be a great listener, and to come beside them in a way that that allows them not to know who you are and for you to know who they are. And you move in friendship when they trust you, then you can start speaking of other things. But it begins with relationship. And then they feel safe enough that they can share different parts of their lives. And then we can walk with them to show them how they can walk with Christ, which life would be a lot different as you walk with Christ.
Yeah. As Pastor Tim has shared, his son James, gospel moves at the speed of relationships. So that's very important for us to make relationships in order to be able to share the gospel, with others. So it's great that you're seeing that in the ladies in the church. That's an awesome experience. Well, I appreciate getting to know you a little bit better here and doing this interview about outreach focus. I think very rewarding for me. Right at the end here, I would like to share one of my poems and talk a little bit about how I use that for outreach. This poem is called The Next Phase. And it's a story about a man that I've tried to witness to for a while who passed away. And so I'm going to read that to you and then ask for your feedback here a little bit. It says, "Bring in the cart and haul him away. Countenance fallen, no laughter today. Take care of the spouse, meet every need. My pain is internal, no visible bleed. A moment of tribute long overdue. Some kind words of mercy, mourners subdued. Some memorable pictures, a few stories to tell. Some comments of kindness, anger dispelled. One journey ended, another begins. You might know the path for a man laced with sin. He gave to no person, he spent all that he had. His family ungrateful, only one sod is sad. I reached out to him, he pushed me away. Countless attempts, I am dismayed. Did I fail in my tasks, though I shared the light? My prayers were unanswered, he fell to the night. I alone hear him mourning, this miserable man, but I dedicate my trust to the Lord's great and wise plan. I don't like this feeling. I weep with my pen. I pray I don't ever feel this way again. My anguish is great. My tears stain the page, though my pastor has said I'm in the phase of the sage. There is no more life, no ideas to defend, but I'll remember these words and I'll miss my dear friend. I wrote that after this man I'd been witnessing to for a while about Jesus rejected me, and then he passed away. And so this is a gift that the Lord has given me, and how do I use that, to take this anguish that I have and use it for his glory and his outreach to others. And what I found was I sent it to non-believers, and they read it and liked it. And then they asked the story behind it, and it opened up a door for conversation to others. So I encourage you, for your poems, that you do that. When you write something, whatever gift the Lord has given us, we need to use it for his glory and his kingdom and to his end. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you today, Martha. All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and Eastside. Thank you for listening, and we'll go on with the rest of the service now. So appreciate it, and you guys have a great service. Thank you. Ciao.